Welcome to the Grifball Community Podcast, covering all your Grifball needs. And now, your hosts for the Grifball Community Podcast, Pinhead Larry and RageMoreNerd.
So as per usual, I'm just going to go right into it because, I don't like to BS. I don't like to beat around the bush. So I'm here with my boy Noplex, the old guy. He's just the old guy. We got RageMoreNerd.
Yeah, I'm back.
Yeah, no one wants you here, Rage. You can leave.
Okay, I'll just leave. Have fun.
So, yeah, get out of here. No one wants you here. So we want to talk about Ammy playoffs. This has kind of had the little bit of hype, but I just want to, give my 2 cents real quick about Ammy and how playoffs are done. And this is kind of a shot at the admins or whoever decided to allow 8 teams to make playoffs out of 12. I understand it in pro because there's only 6 teams, and of course we're going to do 4 teams make playoffs because playoffs would just suck if it was just the championship, obviously. But 8 teams, you cannot allow a team like Hyperdrive, Oblivion, Zero Gravity, if they did not. Oh wait, no, Zero Gravity is a 6 seed. So 7th and 8th, Hyperdrive and Oblivion, awful. Like, they should not be in the playoffs. Like, I love PD, but that team kind of just fell apart. No one cares about that team. Oblivion has been awful. Why are we allowing these teams to make playoffs? What's your sense on that, Rage?
Because buys are stupid.
How are buys stupid? You know what's stupid? Terrible teams making playoffs.
Nah, buys are worse.
I don't know about that. What about you, Noplex? How do you feel about 8 teams making playoffs?
Well, I think there's always 2 sides to something, and I like to try to look on the bright side of things. I would say consistency is one thing. 3 teams in a playoff bracket for pro, that would be silly. I will agree with you there.
Exactly.
I think 8 teams in a 12-team playoff bracket, it may seem odd, but consistency is there. And I personally think in an Ammy league, when you're trying to develop, I think it's good that more than half of the teams make the playoffs because it just keeps people, playing and fighting more. There's just 2 sides to it, I guess.
I guess I could see it from your angle, I guess. But personally, I feel like 8 teams making playoffs kind of destroys the competitiveness of the league. Like, even after making playoffs, like, even though One Hit Wonders made the first seed and stuff, I'm still kind of like, I mean, there's no way we could have done it else. Like, we couldn't have done it any way outside of the way we did it for pro, but I'm still kind of disappointed that 4 teams make playoffs. Like, the majority of the teams make playoffs. I feel like that's kind of a downer. But let's just try to get into these playoff matchups. We're going to talk about the 1st and the 8th seed, kind of like we already know what's going to happen, kind of jazz here, as Defiance, the unsuspecting 1st seed. I thought Legendary was going to take it, but Defiance, the biggest contrast of teammates I've ever seen being this successful, is going against the – it's not – we already know what's going to happen. But anyway, we'll still bring it up. But they're going against terrible Oblivion. So how do you guys feel about this playoff series specifically? Because you're
I would pretty much just say Defiance is going to wipe. It's usually how 8 and 1 seeds go, especially in Ammy, but I don't think Oblivion has an edge anywhere.
See, I said Noplex, but you can chime in,
Hey, he was an Ammy player in Summer League 11. We don't need to bring up them memories though.
I am Noplex.
I really don't like to go into a matchup and say this team is just going to flat out lose. I don't really like that. I don't like to be negative unless it's my KD, LOL. But Defiance is a really good team. They're like you said, they're dysfunctional, but they're like the A team. Like they get it done. They have every piece there, and I just think Oblivion's just been kind of floating on through the season, and maybe they played some good games towards the end. I would say the one bright spot that I've seen consistently all season from Oblivion is Doomsday. He's played very well with considering his circumstance. I think it's pretty hard to predict Oblivion's going to win this game, but playoffs are a new story. But I would say like 90% leaning with Defiance here. I just think they're rolling. They got all the pieces there, and I just think they'll continue to succeed.
Honestly, Doomsday, I'm proud of my boy Doomsday. He's actually hasn't been doing too bad. I'm actually really proud. But I want to talk about Defiance specifically because them making first seed was kind of like bizarre. Like I didn't expect Defiance to really make this big of a showing, considering that Relic doesn't talk in games. Puppies kind of does his own thing. Rice is kind of a wild child, and Trespass is a new captain. So you can never this team was definitely a wild card going into this season, and they've really just surprised everyone, especially me. I'm actually very proud of every single one of these guys, especially Trespass. Designing a pretty odd base team, but keeping everyone together and not frustrated with each other. Especially when you got a guy like Rice, who's pretty much like a baby Larry when it comes to personality, and is just like an odd child. So it's definitely cool to see Defiance kind of be the underdog and kind of step up and rise to the occasion and be the first seed. But ultimately, I definitely have Defiance in the automatic sweep over Oblivion because Doomsday's not going to just win you a game. So Defiance is definitely just going to roll right on through. How do you guys feel, Noplex, about series? Like, how do you feel it's going to play out? I have Defiance over Oblivion 2-0.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you there, Pinhead. I think it's going to be a 2-0 sweep. Barring them getting some kind of miracle happening, and we've known that's going to happen in Grifball. I mean, I don't know. Like you said, I just feel like they have all the pieces there. Defiance, they got the tanking line and Puppies and Inhumane, whether he communicates or not. They have Rice, who's the thorn in your side playmaker, good defender, and he's got the most goals on the season. And then I'm not sure. I haven't played too much against or with Trespass, but he just seems like if anyone's going to be the leader on that team, like you always talk about, I feel like that's his role, the glue, the leader, making call-outs, directing traffic or whatnot. He might be new, but experience doesn't matter for that type of role, I feel. I mean, I feel he could still go out and communicate and lead his team.
Yeah. What about you, Rich?
Yeah, a sweep. 2-0. There's really not much to say. It's just a better roster and a more complete team. It's gonna be lopsided.
Yeah, it's definitely gonna be a murder, a murder. Honestly,
wow.
But this is gonna go into the 2nd and 7th seed, which is gonna be Legendary and Hyperdrive. Ah, man. I know I hate the 8th seed. I hate the 8 teams make playoffs, but I feel like the team that's most likely to make an upset out of the 2 teams that shouldn't be here is definitely Hyperdrive on Legendary. But Hyperdrive overall, especially for me, I feel that Hyperdrive has been the biggest disappointment, single-handedly the biggest disappointment. It's just so awful. They got a lot of young talent who don't know how to play and don't know how to, they don't know how to mesh well. They're very new players. Perfect Demise really, really regressed. Really. He kind of went from being a below average tank in pro to just being an awful, mediocre, gross tank in Ammy. I love PD. He's my boy. Everyone knows how I feel about my boy PD and my boy Taz, but they just don't practice. They don't practice enough. They don't like to play enough. They never get on for games. Ricardo's kind of all over the place. Krypton doesn't talk in games, which is a huge hit on this team. And I feel like maybe they should be playing Pope on Dope instead of Krypton, because Krypton is a cancer when it comes to the communication of this team. So I definitely feel Legendary is gonna have their way with Hyperdrive, considering how young Hyperdrive is and how dominant Legendary is. So how do you feel about it, Noplex? This is your matchup. You're going into this game. How do you feel about it?
I think I would touch on what you just said about, their team chemistry. Whenever we played them earlier in the season, it was a 5-3 win for us. We were losing that game. They definitely fought hard in that game. I feel like Krypton probably gives them their better chance to win because of just the tanking power. But, I mean, a Pope on Dope had some good games this season as well, and he apparently, from talking to PD, he communicates really well, and he clicks well more. He clicks better into that chemistry, I guess, for the team. It would depend on who they play, I suppose, but I've felt since the beginning of the season we sort of match up well. Coming into the season with CCV, we were the 2 highest. Us 2 and Pop Tart. I believe, they have the strong runner. We also have the strong runner in Ray. Me and PD are very different players. I'm more of the defender, role player, whatever you want to call me, and PD's been more known as a tank, sort of streaky tank. And then we both have 2 new players, and then of course we have Jester and 420. I'm not sure who will even play. It'll really be on who's on at the time. But I would be stupid to say that I don't believe my team can win. I believe we can beat them. But in the same sense, Hyperdrive went into the Summer League 14 Ammy playoffs as a big underdog, and they ended up winning the whole thing. So I don't look past PD at all. I respect him as a competitor, as I do everyone in this league. So I don't look past stuff like that. But I'm hoping we can play strong and beat them in advance in the series, or advance in the playoffs. I mean,
as for that comparison to the Hyperdrive that upset, what was it? Supernova. Wow, that team name existed. So yeah, that upset season. I don't want to call it quite the same thing because I just feel like looking back at it, that team actually had a really good roster. Like you didn't think about it then, but considering where those players went, PD is still PD, but Ray has been very successful, and Routine Ritual turned out to be one of the best up-and-coming players towards the end of Halo 4. I guess you could almost say Ricardo could be that Routine Ritual, but this team has so much potential since the start of the season. They're really high ranked, but there's just so much internal turmoil going on with the team. They didn't get a lot of times to play. They pretty much had like 2 separate 2-week breaks where they didn't play games. And I don't think the strive to be successful is there. And I think they're going to go in with the wrong mindset, and that potential is not going to be touched. And it's a shame because this team could have been really good, but I don't see it happening. I think you and Ray alone are just going to be enough to overpower this team. And I think it'll be a 2-0 win for Legendary.
Yeah, honestly, the greatest thing that came out of Hyperdrive this season, though, is Taz is kind of like he's a very aggressive personality. I love Taz. I've known Taz for a long time. He's very hilarious. You guys have actually played with Taz before, but he's hilarious. Like, they lost like a few games, and Taz at this point kind of just doesn't care if he loses. So as soon as he loses, Taz made a joke out of Pope on Dope. He was like, I hope you're gonna play Pope on the Dope. And he used to always say that because, like, anytime, I remember we were playing Black Ops 2, we were playing Search and Destroy, and then he was like, PD, if these guys win this round, you better start playing Pope on the Dope. I ain't showing up to these games. So Pope on the Dope kind of turned into somewhat of a meme, man. But I definitely going to have Legendary in the sweep. Yeah, Legendary are going to just totally wreck this team, in my opinion. I feel like Hyperdrive really doesn't stand a chance. Taz is a little too aggressive. He's kind of where I was back on Notorious. I feel like he needs to learn and I feel like there's way too much learning he needs to do before he can hit that next level as a player. And it'll be interesting what happens in this series. But overall, I think Legendary is just going to take it in a 2-0 victory. It's going to be, and what about you, Noplex?
I'd like to think it'd be a sweep, but that's just me. I'm not a very brimming with confidence type of person. I like to go in level-headed and focused and have my team focused. So, like I said, I don't look past PD because he's made some crazy things happen. But Rage is right. I suppose it's not the same situation. I will go on to say that the spotlight of that team he's been a big bright star is Ricardo. And that goes with a lot of the new talent in Ammy this season. I mean, you got Ricardo and Sobriety. Smokey's a decent player who would probably be on any other team. And Ammy, he would definitely be producing a lot more because he's just, a rotating sub for us. Yeah. I'm not sure, like I said, for that series as well, I'm not sure who we're going to play. It'll all depend on who's around.
I think that's the thing to watch. Most about this series. Like, I think Hyperdrive's going to get swept here. But I think the important thing to look at is, will Legendary finally decide who their 4th is going into playoffs? It's great to have a really deep team like you guys have, but that could, it could also hurt you because you're not getting a full season's worth of games with whoever could be your playoff starter. So
Yes.
it's a few games of missed chemistry. So I don't think it'll matter this series, but I think it's gonna be important for every other team to watch who to expect as the team's fourth going forward, and if they keep it consistent.
Yep, it's all gonna come down to this. Personally, I feel like their fourth should be 4-0 because I feel like 4-0 has a lot more playoff experience, and I feel he's more level-headed. I feel like he doesn't get nervous in games. I feel that Smokey, especially with the group of friends he hangs out with, I feel like there's a lot of pressure for him to win a championship and kind of be the first one out of his friends to be like, "Ah, y'all, look at me! I won an AGLA championship," all that good stuff, but. Honestly, let's start getting to the meat and potatoes. The only first round matchup that I feel is gonna be anything, which is gonna be underrated versus Zero Gravity. Underrated has been a fan favorite. They have been. Everyone loves Pop-Tart. Pop-Tart is always going to be King Ammy. I don't know what it is about him, his attitude, how he plays, and how he just, galvanizes the team around him and kind of gets them all fired up. And the fact that he could build really solid teams and is such a consistent Ammy player and is a great leader is great. And then Zero Gravity, I'm in love with this team, Zero Gravity. I like that they pass. I like that they have playmaking. I definitely like that they're very multi-purposeful, I guess I could say, for lack of a better term. I still think Verity is cancer to this team. I feel like he is kind of the reason. I'm sorry I had to say this. You're going negative does not always mean that you're doing bad, but you're negative 325 on the season. How? Like, what are you doing? Like, are you just throwing your body out there just to die? I mean, it comes to a point where, like, I know you like to play make Dragon Guy 2.0, but it comes to a point where you got to start doing other stuff. I feel like this team would be way better if they started to be a little bit more tank oriented, if they started adding more tank, because Otaku can play. I feel like Otaku on any other team, I just feel like this team doesn't fit his scheme, but I feel like on any other team, or maybe even on a pro team, he could be a solid playmaking runner. I feel like he's very capable of being a solid defender playmaking runner. I like Otaku. I think Retrograder could be a solid ball tank for a team. Pro, no, I wouldn't say that. Miss Meow, she's coming up. She's a solid tank. She has a lot of high hopes, but like all these players on one team kind of just, despite them being a playmaking team, I feel like this team kind of need to be on other teams to kind of like learn. Like if Otaku is still a young player, and I feel like if he would have been on another team, he would have had the chance to learn and become a better player. But the fact that they're on the same team, I feel like they're not learning as much as they would if, Otaku was on a team like Legendary, or if, Retrograder was on another team like Aftershock, or I feel like they would learn more if they played with more experienced players, but they're kind of like growing up together in a sense. But I definitely like Zero Gravity. Underrated is definitely the favorites. I hate to always be choosing the home team here, or the higher seed here, but I definitely have underrated winning. You have the two best tanks in Ammy on your team. You have a passive runner who can run a lot of routes, a very great leader in Razor, and then you got a great captain who can also tank his ass off and play some of the best defense in Ammy with Pop-Tart. And I feel like Zero Gravity, especially when you got a guy like Verity constantly dying all the time, and Miss Meow, she's developing, and then Retro and two runners kind of like switching off with the ball, it kind of just, I feel like that's just going to collapse, and I feel like they're definitely going to be losing in the first round to underrated. How do you feel about this team, Noplex, playing against them?
Well, I can lead off with this and say that Zero Gravity beat underrated. I think they're the hottest team right now in Ammy coming into playoffs, and you always want to watch out for that hot team coming into playoffs. Sort of similar to Impulse and Pro, they kind of slept all season and kind of just went on cruise control. But then at the end, they just stepped it up, and they kind of went into playoffs hot. I would say that's very comparable to Zero Gravity. They definitely have that playmaking. Now, I feel like we played them. Let's see. We played them this past Monday, and it was our last game for our season for Legendary. And we beat them, and it seems like right after that game, they started really working hard in customs to improve their game, and it shows. I mean, you can definitely tell they've improved in the short time that they've started working on that. You speak right with Verity when you say that whenever you're a flanking and a playmaker like that, you don't want to just get to the point where you're just chunking bodies, like you said. I feel like he's kind of honing that a little bit better and staying with the team when he needs to more or coming back. And then also being smart about how he chooses to go weak side. So I feel like that's improving. And Godley is a good defender. And Miss Miala has really stepped up her game tanking because she's even been coming into parties and asking for tips. And it just seems like Retrograder he's been doing a good job as well. They've all just been really meshing well and getting their chemistry together. Underrated. What can I say? What can't I say about that team? I mean, they literally have every piece there. They've got the 2 strong tanks, and then they have Pop-Tart, who is arguably an MVP candidate. And favorite between him and Reyes. It's we got a good team, and like I said, Razor, he hugs the wall, he holds on to the ball, he doesn't give it up, he's smart, he's calm and collected. He runs the ball really well with his squad. So I don't know. I think maybe Zero Gravity could maybe use some of their fire to take a game, but I just feel like it could be 2-1 underrated for the series.
What about you, Rich?
Yeah. I'm gonna go the same. I'm gonna go 2-1 underrated because again they did win, and in that one game it was like a 40-minute game, and they were Zero Gravity got tanked into the ground. But the fact that they still found ways to win and score goals despite going that negative is just a team that I love to see win, and it's fantastic. A fun stat I like about this team is that 3 different players on their team have more than 15 goals, but none of them have more than 18. So they have 3 players, Verity, Retrograder, and Otaku, who have such an even goal spread. So this team is very flexible with who they can have holding the ball, and they're clearly very adept at passing and maintaining possession if they're able to beat underrated, just getting out-tanked like crazy for 40 minutes. Like those are very important aspects to have for the team that is capable of winning. But at the same time, I think underrated is just too complete of a team. It's great to be a team that can win going negative, but if you don't play the game perfect, then eventually it's gonna crash down on you. And I think I think underrated's just simply got too much firepower on that team. They've got their tanking duo, they've got their playmaker, and they've got their smart conservative runner. I think that's just going to be a little bit too much. But I think the fact that they beat them is enough to give them that edge for at least one game.
Yeah, I feel like underrated is very they're very in your face, but very passive at the same time. It's a weird system that they run, but I definitely just don't see Zero Gravity standing a chance. I definitely got 2-0 versus underrated because playoffs is a different beast, and you're talking about underrated, a team that has Dark Soulnado, Gambit, Pop-Tart, Razor, players who have played in playoffs before. Nobody except for Otaku and Retrograder played in playoffs, but I feel that underrated is a little bit more playoff ready, and I feel like they have that mindset to win because a lot of these guys on underrated have been playing for a long time. Now the most balanced series in the bunch is Rage's manager team, which is Aftershock, which completely turned around. They got Wolverine, they got Hydro Kids, Mungo, War Hero. They got a pretty solid lineup, and they're going against the whatever show with Secret Society, which has HLG lose the ball, and fiery, or as Steezy calls him, watery deterrent, which is fiery motive. And Cutthroat, very skilled veteran, and I forget who their 4th is, which is really bad. But this series is going to be the most balanced, and I feel that Aftershock here, because there's nothing to say about the Secret Society, because personally I feel like there's no leadership going on with Secret Society. I feel like there's no respect going on. Cutthroat kind of took leadership, but nobody really respects Cutthroat on that team, I don't feel. And I just feel like that team just lacks leadership. But Aftershock is definitely developing their best friends, Mungo, War Hero, Haijo, and Wolverine. They hang out a lot, they talk a lot. They have a lot of leadership, they have a lot of friendship, and they're all a bunch of young players except for Haijo. And Haijo's kind of stepped up as a leader. Mungo's definitely stepped up as a leader. I feel like Mungo has regressed as a tank. I do not feel like he's a strong tank anymore, but I feel like as a coach and as a guy to keep the team focused, I feel like he's going to do really well. And I feel like him running the ball for this team would be a lot better for them and their success. And I just feel that Aftershock is definitely going to be a very different team. And I feel like they're going to figure out a lot about themselves in this series. I feel like this team's going to be more aware about what they need to do and what they need to accomplish as a team to succeed. And I feel like this is going to be a great game for Aftershock, or a great series for Aftershock going forward into the playoffs, because I feel like they're going to learn a lot about themselves, and I feel like they're going to learn what works and what doesn't. And if Wolverine can just learn not to betray as much, and Mungo learns how to hold the ball a little bit better and not go for stupid punches, I feel like Aftershock really has this one in the bag. But I'm going to go Aftershock 2-1 over Secret Society. That's just me. What about you, Noplex?
I think I'm going to go ahead and side with you this time. I think 2-1 was exactly what I was thinking whenever I just started looking at this matchup. Secret Society, their fourth that they've used, or I believe that they used against us when we played them, they got a trade for Dirty Murder Texas, and they also got a trade for HLG Speedy. So it's basically Cutthroat, Fiery, Speedy, and Dirty Murder is their lineup that I played against. Aftershock, after they got the trade, they're definitely looking a lot stronger than the first game when we played them, because they're in our conference, so we had to play them twice. They definitely look really strong. Wolverine and Hyde combo is pretty good. They're both deserving for All-Star. I think that, yeah, like you said, Mungo Pungo really kind of anchors that team and kind of just, makes everybody better around them. So I got to say, I feel like, War Hero, that's their fourth?
Yeah, War Hero. 19.
War Hero, yeah, he's also a solid tank. He does a good job probably, being a combo tank with Wolverine and Hyde, maybe drawing people in, maybe tanking in the middle and drawing people in for them to get cheap kills on and, holding his own. So, yeah, I think it could be a close series. Like you said, it does seem like it'll be pretty rounded. So, yeah, I'm going Aftershock 2-1.
All right.
Rage, this is your manager team, man.
I'm just a little bit biased because this is version 2 of the team I made, but Aftershock is going to sweep them. No problem. 2-0. Not even going to be close. 5-0, 5-1. Secret Society, also kind of a team that had to be rebuilt mid-season, but not quite the same. Aftershock, my new team, I love the energy this team has right now. Whenever in the group chats, they're excited. They have a really high energy, and they want to win. I haven't been on a team or led a team that's wanted to win as much as these group of players have right now in a long time. And wow, I don't know how it's going to work deeper in the playoffs when they start getting to the tougher teams, because the team seems to be very, very reliant on Hydro Kids and Wolverine to be that 1-2 tanking duo who are awesome, and I love watching them play, and they're fantastic. Secret Society is not going to be able to stop them, and this is going to be a lopsided win for Aftershock, and we are going to move on to the next round.
Oh, man, this guy's just like, I'm not biased. Okay, that's biased. They ain't gonna do that. You need to chill. And then I like the confidence and all. But I feel like this is definitely going to be a roadblock. I feel like this is going to be like a speed bump, man. It's going to be like a speed bump. Man, I just want to talk about Secret Society because I feel like I didn't talk about them a little bit. I felt like I talked about them a little too much, or a little too little, I should say. This team, man, oh my God. I was watching them on stream because I was streaming for this team. And, like, they got mad at me because I was being honest about them. And they were like, man, the way you were talking about it, cry me a river. I don't care about what you think that your team does. You guys are literally running into the other team. HLG Speedy's messaging me talking about this, that, and this. Bro, I literally saw you throw the ball into the other team and try to barrel roll them. Like, who do you think you're playing against? Like, you're going against underrated and barrel rolling into five people. Teammate who has literally no awareness, who is 9 times out of 10 gonna betray his teammate. They should be having Fire run the ball. I feel like he's a better runner, and I just feel like this team just lacks everything. I don't like this team at all. And especially just due to their bad attitude about the criticism I gave them, I feel like this team doesn't deserve to be good. I feel like this team doesn't deserve to win, and I feel like this team doesn't deserve anything because they're entitled. They think that, oh, it's like, well, we should already be good and be talked about in grace and stuff. No. If you do stupid stuff, you are not going to win. Secret Society is just literally it's like a daycare ran by kids. That's literally all it is. Daycare ran by kids. Honestly, we're going to do a nice little quick skirt. We're getting out of here. We're getting out of the playoff talk. I don't want to talk about the playoff talk anymore. And we're actually going to go into a more exciting thing rather than the first round of playoffs. And we're going to talk about player awards. So a lot of people have had a lot of problems about how I've been running playoff awards and nominations, but here's what people don't understand about what I did, especially with the team MVP. People are like, oh, I don't like how you did it. It's like, that's the best way, in my opinion, to do it. You ask all your team who was your MVP and then throw them in a pool and then they're voted on. I feel like that's good. I know, Noplex, you wanted to have other people elect MVP for other people's team, but who knows their team better than themselves, you know? Like, obviously the team knows who their team MVP is. So, Noplex, how do you feel the award should have been done?
I mean, I feel like the way that it was done, I mean, we got the nominations out of it and stuff. I mean, it's fine. You're going to have your strengths and weaknesses with any way you go about it. I feel like we've done a few things different this season. And honestly, this might be going off on a little tangent here, but before the season started, Pinhead Larry he wasn't really involved in a lot of community content. I feel like the stuff that you started to do got you really into it. And I saw that you really wanted to do it this way this season. And there's nothing wrong with trying something new, you know, trying a new selection process, because it's almost like a committee if you think about it. And I feel like the selection process for All-Stars in the top 12, making it out of the community top 25 list, I feel like that could be really stronger in future seasons if we stick to it. If we just get more and more people to submit theirs, that'll take their time and sit down and submit it weekly, almost like a power rankings. Then you could take it in and have it average, and then it'd be more strong because more people are submitting their lists, you know? So I mean, I still feel like the awards and the All-Stars look good. You can't always include everybody that's deserving. Somebody's always going to miss out. Like I feel Rice sort of missed out on All-Stars this season. Maybe he was kind of ranked up and down on some people's, but I talked to him about it today. He's got his head held high. I told him, hey man, you might not have made All-Stars, but you could still win a season award. He could still win Best Runner of the Season. So.
Or even better, instead of making All-Stars, you could win the championship and then not worry about it at all. I mean, there's that. But I want to talk about some of the pro team MVPs. So here were the team MVPs that were elected by each team. One Hit Wonders elected myself, Pinhead Larry 24. Impulse elected Ace Be Silent. Vital Signs elected Infinite Rain. Next Dimension elected Galvanator. Hybrid Theory elected IX Gingy. And Pro Run elected Digital Pain. So any diatribes about the pro team MVPs?
I'm just an Ammy kid, all right? I just want to go pro.
See, this is why I wanted to have a guest, man. I wanted that extra person, but, you know, that was piss poor planning on my part. I apologize. Yeah, honestly, I really like these MVPs, man. Some of them were really obvious, like Ace Be Silent, Galvanator, Gingy, Digital. Those were pretty obvious. But ones that weren't necessarily too obvious, I mean, I feel like they're obvious if you watch streams and stuff and you kind of saw if you have the eye test. I feel like One Hit Wonders and Vital Signs kind of had the, like, who's who. I mean, you had Ogloff, who was literally killing it this season for Vital Signs, and Rain won it anyway. Even though Rain statistically had a phenomenal season, I feel that Ogloff kind of made Ogloff and Nets both made huge impacts for this teams in many ways besides just going positive and getting a lot of kills. Anybody think that maybe Ogloff should have won team MVP for Vital Signs?
No, I don't. I think we got it right with Rain, because this team is built around Rain as a lead tank and being successful on it. And if you have Ogloff on a different team where he doesn't have the luxury of Rain in front of him, I don't think he has the same season he had now. if you put him on, if he was on maybe one hit wonders or pro run, teams that really didn't. Well, I don't want to say pro run, but one hit wonders were a team that wasn't really known for this. Okay, we're gonna out tank people and eventually we're gonna get in. Just be smart, conservative about it. He would not see the same success on our team. It was very fortunate that he was picked up by Rain.
Yeah. And then one hit wonders is kind of, I feel like with the eye test, and I'm not going to stroke my own ego here with Pinhead Larry 24 being me. But honestly, I feel like if you do watch the streams, which, the streams have gotten a lot more views. And I feel like if you watch the streams, you could really see that the playmaking dynamic and the plays that I've made, like my carrier kills, even though I have less carrier kills than puppies, my carrier kills, in my opinion, a lot of my carrier kills have meant a lot more to my team than puppies, because statistics don't always tell the full story. I mean, this goes for a lot of players, and especially our team. Like, you look at the statistics, you look at one hit wonders, and you see that we're all negative on the season, but some of our statistics, we get the right kills. Like our kills are definitely different from other teams' kills. Like, other teams' kills are probably just more mid-court kills, just, getting mid-court kills and all that stuff. And our goals are a lot of, like playmaking goals. And I feel like a lot of our kills are a lot of important kills rather than just meaningless kills where we're chasing someone mid-court and getting the kills. And One Hit Wonders is a support team filled with support players that kind of just make it and get it done. So it's kind of hard to elect One Hit Wonders team MVP because due to like everyone's stats being pretty much similar except for the runner, because obviously myself, I'm holding the ball most of the time. Of course, I'm gonna have more goals than everyone else, but statistically, I feel like you don't know how good One Hit Wonders is until you watch them on stream, and I feel like that says a lot about this team and our team, I should say. Kind of rambling. I don't know what I'm talking about, but. So those team MVPs are thrown into an election, which is going to be voted on by the community for MVP. So, you know what? I know it's not the right thing to do to discuss who you're voting for, but Noplex, who will you be voting for?
Rain.
There. Really? Why is that?
No doubt about it. It's his time, man. He's been hated on too long. This is his season, man. He's doing great. I mean, I'm not a big person on stats, but I mean, come on. He's MVP, okay? MVP to me, yeah, come on. MVP to me is you take that person out of the lineup, and how successful would they be without that person? I mean, obviously they'd have three people, so they'd be in a bind, but you get what I'm saying. Take that person out and put someone else in, and how much of an impact would they have? And I feel like Vital Signs without Rain this season, they like you said, they'd be a different team. Or like Rage, I believe he said with Uglov running behind him, I just feel like they'd be a completely different team. He's I don't know, he's been dominant tanking this season. You can use that. That's for sure. I'm sure with a runner like yourself, you said many times you'd love to have a Rain to run behind. So even though you might give him crap, you would like to run behind him because he definitely slaughters. Yeah. He's comfortable to run behind
a Rain in the nets. This is no dig at my team, but man, just to watch bodies fall and just literally run behind defenses just sounds like a dream to me. Rage, who are you voting for?
My preseason pick was Tariq, but that's not staying because he's clearly not the best player on his team anymore. As much as I love Tariq, my MVP pick is going to be Galvanator. And I call him overrated a lot, but he is still among the best, top 3 player in the league, probably top 2. I'm not putting him over Ace yet. I don't care what you said last week about that, but Galvanator, and this only happens because Galvanator led that team to playoffs. If they miss playoffs, there's no way he's going to get this MVP award, but he has done more with less than Rain has. Of the teams in playoffs, you can pretty much say every team has their really good trio at least. You can't really say that about next mentioned. Their third and fourth are Killers and Viper, who not saying they're bad players, but I think they don't compare to like Oogie, and I would guess Sab would be considered our third, or Deathleak. I think Deathleak contributes a lot more to his team's success, and I don't think next mentioned has that third player. And I think Galvanator is the one who's picked up all of that slack and just has the biggest court presence of players right now. And I think that's the reason this team is in playoffs right now.
I'm going to have to say the same thing. I'm a huge fan of Galvanator. He's probably one of my favorite players to watch and play against. He's probably one of the hardest players I've ever played against. I'm going to say Galvanator because he carried his team. I mean, Killers and Viper haven't been necessarily doing the best for their team, and I feel like Tariq definitely needed to step it up a lot more. And Galvanator pretty much said, you know what, because it was so unlikely for them to make playoffs. Like, it was looking like they weren't going to make playoffs, and that Hybrid Theory was going to take the cake. But Galvanator just said, put the team on my back, coach. This man won and beat Hybrid Theory. Shout out to Hybrid Theory for choking out here. How do you blow that? How do you blow a 3-win lead, bro? Didn't they have a 2-win? They had a 2-win lead. All they had to do was win one game to just completely annihilate them and get them out of playoffs, or 2 games, and they choked. It's as simple as that. So next one, we were talking about this, and we went by goals. It was pretty easy to discover who the nominations were going to be for runner of the season. We got Ogloff, Kid Tonga, and Pinhead Larry 24 myself. Nominate because we went a lot off goals, and there's really only 3 elite runners in the leagues. So who do you guys, Noplex, I'm going to go with Noplex first. Who are you going to vote as your runner of the season?
Well, if you smooth some smite gems around to the right people, I suppose you could get stuff to battle a little bit. No, all jokes aside. I feel like it's really close to the top for the top 2 runners. I mean, looking at the stats here, it's pretty much you and Ugloff that kind of stand. I mean, Tonga's in there too. I would say his spread's a little bit worse than y'all's. Ugloff has more goals than you. He has more carrier kills. I mean, I suppose that doesn't really matter. He has more ball kills. It's really hard to, statistically say that Ugloff doesn't get the vote for that. Not taking away from your running at all. I feel like, you're definitely the more daring, aggressive runner. You force teams to come at you. You basically force them to play your style, or you're going to go around them or embarrass them. Whereas Ugloff's more of the come and get me tank, or come and get me defenders type of runner, and they're not going to get him because he basically baits people in the smart link lunges. He's methodical. He waits. He's going to punch you every time, basically. And I just feel like he would get my vote.
What about you, Rich?
Again, I'm biased because I set you up this season to win this award, and I'm gonna say that you are the best runner this season and I'm gonna give you the edge over Ugloff here because you can find ways to score beyond this traditional running. You can score in more ways than Oogie can this season. You're the one. You do a lot more route running. You're more pass heavy. You really don't rely on your tanks, and I think it just means more to a team when your runner is not dependent on the rest of his team to get the goals done. And I just think this team was built around you to be successful, and you've stepped up, and you've been that stud player. So, yeah, definitely you.
Obviously, I'm not going to be biased here, but I guess the stance I'd like to take on it is, I feel like, we're just a team of role players, and I'm definitely going to vote for myself. I don't know. Maybe I won't vote at all because I don't want to, mess with, how voting is done. But I definitely say myself. That's being biased, but it's just, if you look at it, it's just I don't have the tanks that as much as I love playing with Rage and Sab, and I feel like defensively they're a blessing to have on my team, and Venom and stuff, but at the same time, it's I don't have a guy who's going plus 300 on my team who can tank me in as efficiently as a Rain can or a Nets can, and my tanks are definitely not as strong as Ogloff's tanks. And like Rage said, he's I can find my way into other, I can find more ways into the goal, and I also have passed. I actually counted. I know I'm a loser, but I counted the pass goals I've had. I've had 6 pass goals, which I think puts me at 43 goals if you count all goals together, or somewhere around there. I haven't checked my goals, but I knew I am around 36 or 37. But I'd definitely say myself, I'm biased. But next, we're going to go tank of the season. But this is really obvious and definitely automatic for me. But the nominations are Infinite Rain, Gingy, and Galvanator. My vote right off the bat is going to be Infinite Rain. And that is just no doubt about it, in my opinion. I think that he's just the best tank. by miles. I don't care what Gingy says. I don't care what anyone says. It is not close. Rain is the best runner, or not runner, tank. He is not a runner. Let me just call off all that stuff. I don't want to see a guy go for like 12 punches and then lose the ball. I'm good on that. But Rain is the undisputed tanking king, and I feel like there's not a single player, not even Galvanator, can touch him as a tank. And Rain's definitely got my vote on the best tank of the season.
Numbers don't lie.
Yeah, they don't. But the people who make the numbers, man, who write the numbers down, they lie.
Yep.
So you're definitely going to say Rain as well. Rage, how do you feel about tank of the season? I mean, Gingy, Galvanator, and Rain. How do you feel about them?
Yeah, it's Rain. I mean, we've known this throughout Halo 5. Rain's the best tank right now. He's the best pure tank. Galvanator could be considered a hybrid, but he's really a tank for this team. I don't doubt that Galvanator is a better player overall, but in terms of being a tank, Rain is definitely the best. There's just no way around it. He's just number one.
An award I actually should add, speaking of hybrid, is hybrid of the season, but we actually don't have that, and I'm probably going to discuss it with the committee about who we should have as hybrid of the season. So the next one I want to go to, which was kind of a harder one to figure out and kind of get the information for, because, stats, just because Puppies has 54 carrier kills doesn't always mean that he's the best defender. I mean, you look at time played, he has a lot, and he has a lot of time played, and he has a lot of carrier kills, but defense is more than just pulling out your sword and getting a carrier kill. It's more of like what kind of stops and what kind of defense you can play, how easy are you to fool, and it just defense comes to a lot of eye test. And eye test, if you're wondering what an eye test is, it's just like based off what you've seen out of the player. And the nominations for a defender of the season have been D-Cleek, who's been killing it defensively. He's always been a defensive god. I think he's won it before. Obviously, he won it back in the Spring League. And then you got Nets Pride. Nets Pride is a beast. Everyone loves Nets. And then, of course, Ace Be Silent, the silent man himself. Who do you guys have for defender of the season? Personally, I have my boy D-Cleek, man. I want D-Cleek in that box, because D-Cleek's my boy, and I feel like D-Cleek makes more of an impact on his team than people really give him credit for. Because his defense, he's definitely not a guy that you could just run past. He's definitely not a guy you could just punch. He is a guy you really have to think when you play against him when he's on defense.
Yeah, I feel statistically, just looking at the candidates, I feel like I'm definitely going to go with the numbers. Ace has more carrier kills. D-Cleek, he's a very good defender. There's no doubting that. I was on his team for Spring League 15, and we were definitely a good defense combo. Me on one side, him on the other. They really couldn't do much. And I would say another stat that's kind of important for Ace too is I don't know KD is and everything, but whenever you're staying alive as a tank, that definitely makes you a good 1-2 punch as a defender, because not only do you not give them any space, but if you get that 1 or 2 kills on tanks, then you can just chase the runner into the corner with the sword, either force a turnover or force a bad throw, or just force them to throw it back for a chance for a turnover. I don't know. I just suppose Ace would get my vote.
What about you, Rich?
I'm going with you. I like D-Cleek here because from whenever I play against D-Cleek, because I love to go around teams, I love to go for the passes, I love to do the fun, the sneaky plays, and D-Cleek's always there. Ace is he'll be in the front of the tanking line. Nets will be doing his own thing, but D-Cleek is always the guy. That's what he does. He just looks out for those holes in his own defense, and he plugs those holes. If you're going around them, then you can expect D-Cleek to go back and make sure that you're not going to make that play. And he is frustrating to play against because he is always ruining my flashy stuff. And I think he just takes away more offensive weapons teams have than anyone else. Except
I know
for
in
me.
sports.
Why am I not on here?
I have no idea, man. I asked to tons of people in Pro League who they felt were that person, and D-Cleek, Nets, and Ace were kind of like the big guys that were named in that in those categories. I'm kind of disappointed that I'm not in there, but it's all good, man. I ain't tripping, man. It's disrespectful, especially because one hit wonders, man. I mean,
it's fine,
killing it.
Because I still would have given it to D-Cleek.
Want to go like what the NFL does and what the NBA does, like how they have like the best dunks and stuff like of the season, and they have the clip. Ace has made the best defensive play in the league. We were playing against them. It was we were playing our doubleheader against them. We just beat them the first game, and obviously we beat them in the second game. But what happened was just such a beast move by Ace. But Rage knew. Rage, as soon as he got the ball, he knew to give it back to me because that's how I am. I like to run. So Ace was looking at Rage when the Rage had the ball, and he knew that Rage was going to drop the ball for me. And so he ran at Rage, jumped above him right as he dropped the ball for me, and then literally jumped right over Rage and smart linked me and got the turnover. And it was the greatest play defensively I've ever seen. But I honestly, King Rick got straight to the goal, got to our goal, and I killed him at the last minute. To stop the goal from going in. So two of the best defensive plays I've ever seen, being biased, of course. But I want to go into the new award that we're doing this season, which is Steal of the Season. And it kind of sucks that this is the first season that we're doing this because it's completely undisputed who it is. It's pretty much going to be Ugloff. But the Steal of the Season nominations that are in there is Ugloff, Silva, and King Rick. Despite King Rick, having like a shaky beginning of the season, he's really stepped up, especially in those last few games. He really showed that he is still a pro and that he's still a great player. He's definitely shocked me. He's definitely proved me wrong. He didn't tell me, but with his game, he pretty much told me to shut the hell up and just watch him play, basically. He's definitely lit it up, but it's pretty easy to say that Ugloff has my vote for Steal of the Season. 10 credit pickup, gets 45 goals, 43 goals, and pretty much just lights it up as a runner and as a defender. So Ugloff definitely has my vote on Steal of the Season. What about you, Noplex?
No question.
Yeah, man. It's just like I said, it's undisputed. What about you, Rage? Do you have a curveball for us to make things interesting? Let's see, man.
Nah, Oogie gets the love here. He's just catapulted himself from borderline pro player because he went for 10 credits, and he's going for triple digits next season. He could be a duo for all we know. He's really made a name for himself.
He really needs to be a duo. I feel like if Rain is a smart guy, he would just duo with Ugloff and just spend the rest of his career with Ugloff, because I feel like tanks like Gingy and Rain need aggressive runners who punch a lot, despite the betrayals that come along with that. But I feel definitely Ugloff is the Steal of the Season. So the next award, which can be arguable, but I asked around who they think is the most improved player. Ugloff is a nomination for this. Pinhead Larry 24 is a nomination, and Adorable Eyes is a nomination for most improved player this season. It's a little bit of odd nominations, but at the same time, we wanted to make things interesting. We don't want to just give it straight up. We don't want to just have 2 nominations. We don't want to just have 1 nomination, and we don't want, so we needed the 3. So I asked around, people gave me their nominations of who they thought was the most improved player. So out of Ugloff, Pinhead Larry, which is myself, obviously, and Adorable Eyes, who do you feel, Noplex, who's the most improved player?
It's got to be between you and Ugloff. I mean, Rose, our Infinite Rose, she's definitely a good player on her team. I've spoke about this before. She definitely picks up the kills that they can't kill and draws in kills for Rain. You got to have somebody that's just going to do their best to try to hold the line until your tanks get back. I feel you and Ugloff are both players that have improved a lot. That's tough. I'm going to have to maybe think a couple more seconds about that. But I would say overall, probably the most vast improvement, the name of the award, obviously, I would say it'd have to be Pinhead. Maybe slightly much. Yeah, I think from playing with you on Notorious, what you did is you basically already had the blueprint for what you do. You're kind of like a roller coaster whenever you run the ball. I feel like this season you've improved in the fact that you've kind of you smoothed out the rough edges that you had, and you've kind of learned to control the Grifball euphoria, or the ball high, as you call it.
The Grifball euphoria.
You've definitely learned to control that and being able to kind of harness whenever you're doing good and not let it get too crazy to where you get too hype and too aggressive and start doing just super crazy stuff. And then also, I think even more importantly, you don't let the bad things get to you as bad. At the beginning of the season, it definitely seemed like the same old pinhead, but throughout, it just seems like you didn't get so hard or get so down on yourself when you made mistakes. You just made the most of every play. So yeah, I'd go with you for most improved.
So what about you, Rage? How do you feel about it?
Kind of tough because you've got a player who went from borderline pro to all-star player. Then you've got someone who he's already kind of well known to like MVP candidate here. So, but this feels very similar to Steal of the Season to me in the way it works. Kind of, it'll include players who are not duos though, or who were duos. But again, I'm gonna have to give it to Oogie simply because I knew Pinhead was a stud. I went all in on him for a reason, and there wasn't really a surprise for me that Pinhead became that top player. And with Oogie, I think there is just the biggest difference from where he started and where he is now. So, Oogie.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. From the way I kind of looked at it from this kind of perspective is that it's kind of different. I feel like Grifball Pro Tour, people who played the Grifball Pro Tour as much as they did, kind of had a little bit of insight on me, and like you, because I know you played a lot of Grifball Pro Tour, but it was really just two players who bid me up. So a lot of people, maybe if like Rage, you didn't know how like good I was in Grifball Pro Tour, and it was just Tariq who knew about me, I probably would have went for like 10 or 20 credits. So I feel like the award is a little different, because I went for 190 because two players had some inside information based off how I played in the Grifball Pro Tour. So they're like, hey, this guy lit it up in Grifball Pro Tour, so let's just, keep throwing a 10 on him until, he's an ungodly amount of price. Because a lot of people, when they saw me go for 190, they were like, that's retarded unless you played Grifball Pro Tour. Because I feel like as a runner, I definitely bloomed as a player for Grifball Pro Tour. But for most improved player, honestly, I couldn't really even say. Obviously, there's myself. I don't want to be biased. Oglov definitely has improved. He's definitely – I remember there was a time where, like, Oglov, in my opinion, was just a drop-off. But he's definitely a player to be reckoned with, and I definitely like how he plays. And he definitely keeps me on my feet. And definitely as a player who defends against him, he's definitely a hard player to play against. But then again, that emotional roller coaster that was last season was just like, oh, man, there was such a lot of trial and error and a lot of, testing things out. And like, it was such a grueling process. Like, I guess from my point of view, looking at the grind it took me to get to where I'm at now, and to have there's a lot of people who write it off. Like, oh, Larry, you do this. Like, oh, you use the sword too much. But at the same time, I crafted my game since the last almost a year of grinding this game and learning what works and what doesn't. And it was such a grueling and frustrating process to finally learn and play like this. So at the same time, I look at it from my perspective, but I can't really see it from Uglov's perspective. So I really can't say I have a vote here for who it is, because I don't know. We all have our own way to grinding and getting to where we are now. And looking back on it, it was definitely a frustrating process for me. So if I were to be biased, I'd definitely choose me. But then again, I really have no idea who I would elect for player or not comeback player of the year, but most improved player. It's definitely an interesting award that I feel like Grifball's been needing for a long time, because there's a lot of players who just come out of nowhere from one area to the next and just light it up. And it's definitely crazy to see what happens. So actually, the last things I want to talk about now that we got through all the player awards, I know this is kind of like been kind of a boring, topic or discussion. I mean, we did stroke a lot of people's egos today, but I want to talk about AGLA Ammy All-Stars just a little bit. Just want to read over some names. And then next week, we're actually going to talk about some of the Ammy stuff that happened. We're going to talk about playoffs, and because there's some playoff games that are happening this week. But I want to announce the official AGLA Ammy All-Stars, man. The committee, I know a lot of people were salty about the community. There were snubs like Rice and Taz in there that I feel were All-Stars this season, but, that's not how the cookie crumbles. It's better than what it was last season when you have people like Star missing playoffs, who did way better than Shad, did way better than Ugloff that season. So it was definitely a you don't want to just vote. Voting in nominations is such a frustrating process. So here's your AGLA Ammy All-Stars. We have Lord Ray from Legendary, Poison Pop-Tart from Underrated, Noplex from Legendary, Dark Soul NATO from Underrated, About 73 Puppies, Defiance, Hijo Kids, Aftershock, KSI Gambit, Underrated, Godly Otaku, Zero Gravity, FS Wolverine from Aftershock, Inhumane Relic from Defiance, and SKR Dragon from Wrecking Crew. And last but definitely not least, the passive country singer himself. Not really a country singer, but he knows how to turn rap songs into country songs, it feels like. Razor from Underrated. So that is all we have this week.
It's a good
We'll
show.
see you next week, man.
You've been listening to the Grifball Community Podcast. For more information on how you can get involved, head on over to GrifballHub.com. You can also follow us on social media. That's Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at GrifballHub. Tune in to our live streams Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday nights from 6 to 8 p.m. Pacific. That's 9 to 11 Eastern only on twitch.tv/GrifballHub.
Next week, Dragon Ball Z.
What's up, peanut more butter?
I'll kill you.
That shit was funny. That shit was so funny. We need a guy in the league named Peanut Butter that hates red pandas. I'll kill him.
Deserves to die.
No.
Where's
Need
Host?
more rivalries. Granddaddy, 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 granddaddy.